Hmm.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our May Ask Me Anything episode. We're going to do something different tonight. Instead of having someone from outside the company chat, we're going to let you get to know our man, Josh Berndtson. Josh is the person who many of you know is the chief problem solver, making sure you get your products. Whenever you have questions, you talk to Josh. So, Josh, come on in and
How's it going?
say hi. Hey, Josh. Great to see you. Hey, we're going to start by letting folks just get to know you a little bit, and I know we're going to get some topics that are your long term favorites. But you got a new favorite topic. I think I understand you haven't been sleeping so well the last couple of weeks. What's the new topic in your life?
Yeah, so about 22 days ago, I think it is now, my wife and I had our firstborn. So I have a son now. His name is Jacob. It's been an absolutely surreal time of my life to have a youngster. All these years I've been able to run and play and do my own thing, and now I'm pretty well at home doing as much babysitting as I can and trying to help mama as much as I possibly can as well. But it really is quite the experience. You look down and see those little eyes looking up at you. Or one of the really cool moments was in the hospital. He with his little hand he grabbed onto my thumb, and all four of his fingers fit right in my thumbnail. And so it's been a really cool experience, and it's keeping me busy. So, but
Yeah,
really
that's
neat.
that's so exciting. Life is so amazing when children enter it. It's so true. We're past that now. Our boys are all grown up. We're grandparents, so I get to enjoy a little bit of that, and it really is a joy. All right, so I know we're going to talk about paddling because this is something that's just you and maybe even a few of your paddling friends have joined us this evening. I hope so. But I know you also have some interesting stuff in your past. What did you do before you came to Blue Nest?
So in 2019, if I assume we're talking about paddling, but that was my biggest event out doing anything, and that was kayaking the entire length of the Mississippi River. And did that pretty much right before I actually started with Blue Nest. So it was a pretty big event. It took me 62 days, and all said and done was about 2,265 miles, I think, is what it came to. And so, pretty big event, and really opened up my eyes to the need for clean environments, clean waterways, and seeing what can happen when those areas are abused. So,
So what possessed you to do that? I mean, I've kayaked maybe a couple of miles in a couple of places on flat, still water before, and it kills me. Right? I'm like 2,000 miles. Now, granted, I think you went downstream, but
yeah.
that probably helps. But that's a long, long way. What really got you excited about paddling the entire length of the Mississippi?
Yeah, I mean, through all of my professional life, basically right out of high school, I've gone to school for a few different trades. I've had many different jobs throughout my life already, and it just seems like I've always kind of had this sense of adventure, and I usually fill that adventure with a new job or a new position or learning a new skill. Um, I heard it best said once by a friend who actually got me interested in paddling the river, and he always described himself as a scatterbrain, and I definitely have that same problem. I'm always looking for a new adventure, a new stimulation to me, something to do. And when I heard that people were actually kayaking the Mississippi, I was like, that's incredible. I grew up fishing on the Mississippi River just south of Minneapolis. And I always thought that people that were on the river in canoes and kayaks were just absolutely insane. I never thought for a second that they were going to make it anywhere. I thought they were in danger. And so when I found out that people actually do the entire river, I started researching a little bit more into it. And the more I researched, the more excited I got about the idea. And I know I kind of floated the idea to my wife, and I said, "Hey, I kind of think I want to paddle the Mississippi." And she was like, "Oh yeah, sure," And I think secretly she just thought if she didn't bring it up again, I would kind of forget about it. But the it started to turn into an obsession, and I did a test run in 2018 on the headwaters where I paddled for 5 days, and that was kind of my test to see if it was actually something I wanted to do, and that vastly made it worse, and I couldn't wait to get on the river. And so yeah, I don't know, it kind of just came out of nowhere. I needed to get away from the daily grind and go out and do something big, and the Mississippi River does everything very big, and turned out to be the adventure of a lifetime. So well worth it.
It must be amazing to see the difference in those headwaters. And I lived in New Orleans for a couple of years, and it's just a mammoth down there, right? It's a completely different game. And I grew up on the Missouri. It still seemed big enough, but starting with the trickle of a stream, I mean, what's it like at the headwaters, and how does that strike you as so different as you go that whole length?
Yeah, I mean, the headwaters are absolutely beautiful. They're at Lake Itasca in northern Minnesota. It is nothing more than a little trickling stream, and it is just crystal clear water, absolutely beautiful, beautiful wilderness. The Itasca State Park is somewhere everybody should visit if they're crazy about nature. It's just a very beautiful place. And as you transit down the river the very first day, the first 16 miles is usually what I would do in a day. I mean, it's very shallow. I mean, there's points in which you have to pull the boat out, and walk around fallen trees, tons of beaver dams, mosquitoes, wood ticks everywhere. So it's very much remote. About 5 seconds after you leave the park on the river, you lose cell service and you won't get it back for the next couple days. So it really does put you out in nature. You feel like you really have stepped off into a whole new world again. And it's a very pure and pristine world. And yeah, I mean, as you begin to transit down the river, one thing that's really cool about the river is that you grow with the river. Your skills improve as the river progresses. And so you start out as kind of a green paddler on the river, and you'll face small obstacles, small rapids, small obstructions, whatever it ends up being. As you continue down the river, those lessons learned become tests later on. And, you start to see small waves, small wind, small bends in the river, and they all turn into big waves, big wind, big bends in the river. And so as you get down, start getting into the locks and dam system, it becomes a whole different beast again. The river changes. Now you have commercial traffic, barges and towboats, and the lock and dam structures themselves are very big and very intimidating to be around. And then once you leave the last lock, which is just north of St. Louis, Missouri, you go past the big old Gateway Arch, and you are on a unrestricted river at that point, and well on your way. The river at the Ohio River confluence turns into about a mile-wide river, and you pretty much have a half-mile to mile-wide river the rest of the trip. And it's really quite amazing to have such a small little stream in the beginning and have it turn into that big, huge, massive waterway. All one giant body of water, all moving in one direction. It's really incredible. So, and then once you get down to Baton Rouge, now you have ocean liners and ships that are in the river with you, and you feel pretty small when you're out there against some of these larger craft. Yeah, there's pictures people take of paddlers on the river, and they are just a tiny speck in the overall size of the image. It's really incredible how small we really are on such a big river.
Yeah. I mean, did that get scary at times? I mean, it seems to me like you got to be careful because they're not seeing you. They would, I mean, you're just a mosquito to those big boats. And I remember in New Orleans, right? I mean, we'd play soccer all the time in Audubon Park, and which is right on the river, and the big, ships are coming by all the time, just massive. They take a long time to go by, and you're this tiny little dot. Was that kind of intimidating, scary?
Yeah, it definitely was. The most stressful time on the river was Baton Rouge through New Orleans. Not only do you have the ocean liners out there, they're very fast, they're very quiet actually. So there's times where I was on an empty river, it seems, and I'd look behind me, there was nothing. And then a half mile down the river, I turn around, there was an ocean liner there. They're absolutely dead silent on the river. It's incredible. But in addition to the ocean liners, there's a lot of what are called fleeted barges, and they're basically barges tied up on the shoreline, and they go on for miles, and they're just basically parked there, stored there, if you will. And so for a lot of the river in that area, you can't even get to shore. There is no shore to get to because it's completely blocked by the barges. And it's a very heavy commercial and industrial area, so the traffic is very heavy. In that big wide river, I would try to stay more towards the center because you don't want to be near barges on shore. If you get under them, it's disastrous. But with all that traffic, you naturally kind of get pushed closer and closer to the edge. So it was very intimidating. There was a few times where I was on the phone with my wife and I was saying, I'm not so sure I should be here. There's a lot going on here. But push through. The one thing that would really calm me down was when a towboat captain or one of the pilots on one of the ships would call out my position. And there's an entire radio network on the river of traffic control, not unlike air traffic controllers, but for the river. And when one of these kind captains or pilots would see me, they would actually radio to the entire fleet that I was out there, and they would call out my exact position. And that was really nice because then I knew all the vessels in that area knew I was there. And that would really ease my nerves because now I knew they were looking for me. So
interesting. All right, we got our first question. Other folks start thinking of your questions. You can chime in. From Erica Rose, what kind of wildlife did you encounter while you were on the river?
So wildlife was pretty consistent most of the way up into Louisiana. From Louisiana north, I saw a lot of deer, lots and lots and lots of bald eagles. I did see a lot of gar in the river, so that was really cool. That was the first time I'd ever seen gar in the river. Just pretty about any kind of bird you can.
Pretty big in Mississippi, I'm thinking. The gar?
They can get big. The ones I saw were in a marina, so they were probably, a foot or less in length. But they were always really near the surface, and so it was really cool to see the little guys. Wildlife really started getting interesting when I got into Louisiana. My very first time stepping foot in Louisiana, not just on the river, but ever, I came across gator tracks almost right away. And I actually had to Google what these tracks were because I'd never seen them before. And what was the giveaway was there was a tail drag in between the footprints. And so I looked up gator tracks, and sure enough, that's what they were. And ended up moving on that night. I didn't really know what to expect. I live in Minnesota, so we don't have a gator issue here. And so I just took the initiative. I went down a couple more miles to where there was no gators, and that kind of solved that. There was some pretty interesting spiders down there. One was the banana spider, and it was if it was all laid out, about the size of my hand. And I walked into his web, so it was quite the way to meet the guy for the first time. So, I saw some interesting looking. I don't know if they're some kind of a flamingo or what they were down there, but there was all kinds of interesting critters down in southern Louisiana. So.
Yeah, the water shorebirds, we get a lot of those. I live in coastal Texas, and in addition to the gators, a lot of the wading shorebirds are really cool. We don't have flamingos over here, but some of the pinkish things like the roseate spoonbill is really cool, and they'll hang around in there. But I know there was one moment of drama with a particular bit of wildlife that you happened to catch on video, a little bit of a story. You want to share that story?
Yeah, sure. So I was in Iowa, and had just woken up from a terrible night's sleep. I was being harassed by mosquitoes all night, and they kept me up. And so it was just funny the way the day started out because I was real crabby, real tired. But I got on the river, and I started to actually cross the river. And it was probably about a half mile wide at that point. So it's just a random point. I decided I wanted to cross the river. So I'm paddling across, and right smack in the middle of the river, I could see something struggling out in the water. And as I pulled up onto it, I realized it was a bird flapping in the river. And so I reached down, I picked him up. I actually went to go set him on the front of my deck bag on my boat because I didn't want to freak him out that I was holding him. But he was holding on so tight to me that he refused to step off. And after a few moments of holding him, I realized that it was a red-headed woodpecker. And I mean, he kind of looked up at me like, I don't care who's holding me, I'm out of the river. And so I actually held him for a few minutes. He ended up jumping down into like my lap and then under the deck of the kayak. And so he actually stayed inside my kayak cockpit for about an hour or so. And I think he actually really liked it because it was really warm in there. And he was shivering when I was holding him. So I think that once he realized how warm it was down there and he felt safe and protected, he was just more than happy to stay down in there. And I was happy to have him, of course. I mean, it was really neat. I was just coming up on a lock, and when I go through the locks, I put on a rain skirt, and that seals the boat so that if there's waves on the downriver side of the lock, they don't crash into my boat. I was a little nervous about how I was going to handle this woodpecker in my boat, and I didn't know what he was going to do when I put the cover on. And at that moment, he actually started pecking at the boat on the inside, and so I had to reach down with my foot and kind of work him out. And once I got him moving, he just took off and flew away. So, but it was a really cool event. It really changed the mood of the day. I got pictures and video. It was really cool to have him and to hold him and to save him because he wasn't making much progress towards shore, and I don't know what his outcome would have been had somebody not come by and grabbed him. So, really cool event.
Cool.
Though.
Go ahead and let people know, because we'll probably make sure we touch on it here, but you have your own YouTube channel, and folks can find that video on the YouTube channel. What's that channel?
So the YouTube channel is Escape with Jay, and most of the Mississippi River videos are kind of towards the bottom. There is some playlists if you want to just watch through the videos. You click on the playlist, they'll play straight through. And in actuality, you can watch the entire river trip from top to bottom on my channel. I filmed every single day, and there's 24 videos totaling about 8 hours if you have the time to watch them all. So, and then the bird rescue, he does have his own special video as well. So,
yeah, cool. Were there other memorable moments on that trip?
They're all memorable moments. I mean, some of the locks are really unique. The one in Keokuk, Iowa, actually has a power plant on top of it, and it's about a 3.5-story drop. So I think I dropped 36 feet that day in that lock, and I mean, it's just always so amazing to go through these massive structures as just this tiny little kayak. I do remember a lot about paddling amongst the big ocean liners. There was a couple of storms that caught me off guard. They are quite wild when you have nothing more than a tent or a hammock to hide in from them. I think one of the most memorable things was they're called river angels, and they're basically people who live up and down along the river, almost from top to bottom. And they come out and they'll help paddlers. They'll resupply them with food and water, or even let them come back to their house to stay for the night. They can shower, do laundry. And so to meet some of these extremely kind folks along the river, it was really awesome to see such kind people still exist out there, and to have people so dedicated to helping you on your journey. It was a really cool event, a really cool moment to be with these people, and of course share stories, because many of them themselves have done the river, and you get a couple of river paddlers talking, and man, we'll just keep on going. So, but the headwaters, of course, are very their purity is also kind of top of that list, because I mean, where do you see such clear water nowadays? And up there, it was just so clean. I really enjoy the headwaters.
Yeah, that must be really different. Clean water at the top and just gets dirtier and dirtier, and it probably the stuff you can't see. All the chemical plants like you described between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, right? It's just gotta it's got to be like you don't want to fall in, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean there's a point in the river, and it's right around Baton Rouge where it's advised that paddlers don't even touch the water anymore. So they say no more swimming and avoid the water. It's not very clean. So
Okay, Erica has another question here. What do you eat while you're kayak camping? Any food you crave but did not get to eat while you were out there?
my biggest craving the whole way down was a steak. I wanted a big, huge ribeye. Um, I didn't get that until my trip home, and so to go 62 days plus without a steak was a big undertaking. As far as what I ate on a regular basis, I went very simple. I ate a lot of canned goods because most time canned goods are clean, are already cooked. You just got to open them and eat them. You can warm them up on a fire, which I would do. I actually took some very lean grass-fed beef, ground beef, and dehydrated it. And so I was able to rehydrate that on the river. So I'd have ground beef and like mashed potatoes. Those were amongst my better meals. Sometimes I'd do like pasta bags or rice, anything that was easy. The majority of the stuff I would eat was just different like jerkies and snacks because I could eat them in the boat, granola bars, stuff like that. Usually when I hit the river, I pretty much paddled straight through the day. And so anything that I could just quick eat while I was paddling was pretty much the bulk of my food out there. So obviously, it's going to be a real game changer having boba links because they are so much better to eat than like Slim Jims or the beef jerkies and stuff that I've tried because they aren't as greasy and they actually mix in with a lot of the stuff that I normally cook on the river. I've actually been mixing boba links into my scrambled eggs. There's a lot of people I've talked to, I've told to try this one. But yeah, I'll scramble eggs and then I'll just put boba links chopped up in the eggs. And somehow it is one of the best meals I have done camping since we've started selling them. And so they're going to find their way into many different meals, I have no doubt. So,
Yeah. You know, ever since you told me about the boba links and scrambled eggs, it's like I never thought of that before, right? But I eat them at home now. You don't need to go camping for that. I'll cut up some boba links and put it in eggs. Or one of my favorite things as a kid was beanie weenies, right? You just cut up some hot dogs and put them in a can of beans, and I've done that too, and that works really good. It really does. It gives you more flavor than some of the other things, which is kind of fun in that system. So you still get out and about, kayak and camping there in Minnesota on smaller trips. Do you have any other trips coming up?
yep. So I got a few coming up, a couple in Minnesota, and then one that I'm going to actually head down to Louisiana for. So I don't know if it's something we want to talk about. I know we had mentioned maybe doing a giveaway of, giving away some hints on what river I'm on, and then whoever could guess it could potentially win a prize. And towards the end of the trip, I'll just give away basically what river I am on, and then people can first one to write in will get it. So I do have a couple planned here soon. Obviously, I'm a little more limited now on how long I can be gone, so these trips won't be quite as long.
Right.
But I have every intention of getting out there, enjoying the rivers, filming the wildlife, which is obviously a huge part of why I like to go out. And then, of course, I make the videos to share with anybody who wants to see them. So
Yeah, it's cool. I love the way you make videos, just your own personal experience, conversational tone, and sharing that. And I'm smiling here because I know how passionate you are about that. As Jacob, first couple of years to be fairly light, but it won't be too long before he grows up big enough that I'll bet you put a paddle in his hand or take him out in a canoe at least. And
oh yeah, we're already talking about it. So
yeah, that'll be way cool. Let's shift gears a little bit. We've been talking a lot about the kayak and stuff, but in your Blue Nest beef thing here, mostly you're working hard with customers to solve a problem. Are there any fun stories on customer interactions? You've certainly gotten to know some of our customers, I bet, over the last couple of years. Any fun stories or experiences, or maybe just what you find most interesting about talking to some of our customers?
I think one of probably the neatest stories I've heard, and I wish I could remember her name, but I talked to a gal who was a vegan, and we would never catch her eating meat. And she made that very clear. But she was so passionate about the environment and wanting to practice sustainability that she actually bought her folks, her parents, Blue Nest product because she wanted them to have the best, and she wanted them to have something that was, from a sustainable source. And we had a really great conversation about that. How she would never let her preferences influence others, but she was more than happy to,
Cool.
share with them our program and to make sure that they had access to it. I always thought that was one of the coolest ones. I have a sister who's a vegan, and so like we've had those conversations too, and so it's really neat. It was a really neat experience because I felt like if we could find that kind of common ground as a beef company talking with a vegan about buying our product, that was such a huge moment. We've come across all kinds of people that order from Blue Nest to people who use our insulation in a worm farm to people who they do their own little sustainability programs right there in their own yard or in their own lives, and so it's always fun to connect with those people and see those things from a different perspective. So, but it's always been a lot of fun. There's been times where I've probably talked to customers for an hour and we just go back and forth on such things, and it's a lot of fun. And they're always so kind about it too. Well, we don't want to take up all your time. We know you're busy, and it's like, hey, what could be more important, So we have a lot of great conversations, and I do appreciate them. So keep them coming because they're a lot of fun for me too. So
that's great, Josh. It's really fun to hear the stories as you interact with our customers and we get to know them. Even like the woman who bought a box for her non-vegan family members. Anybody that's a thoughtful leader, I consider a part of our flock, right? People that are just thinking and care about where their food comes from and how it fits in the environment. That's why we're here. So sure, love to sell product to people, but really just kind of grow our flock and really appreciate all that time you take to chat with people. All right, well, we're coming up on our 7:30 stop, but one of the things we like to do is give everybody who's tuned in live a chance for a limited time window to get a special deal on bobble links. So we've set up a flash sale code for them. Josh, what is it?
Well, in celebration of spring finally making it to Minnesota, I'm happy to share a code, time to camp 80. So when I was asked to come up with a fun code, the only thing I could really think about is camping because I got camping on the brain. So time to camp 80.
Time to camp 80 will get you 80% off one pack of bubble links before midnight tonight. So if you haven't tried the bubble links yet and you find them interesting, now's a great chance to order it, and Josh will personally ship them out to you. You can be assured that it's Josh's hands that are handling these things. And Josh always makes himself available by phone, by email to customers. If you have further questions about anything in Blue Nest, don't hesitate to talk to Josh. He loves talking to you. Leave some questions on YouTube, Facebook. I think we put this on Twitter tonight too. And if we'll make sure that Josh sees anything you get there. And meanwhile, if they want to keep up with you, once again, what's your YouTube channel? Is that the best place where people can watch you personally and what you're doing in your life, Josh?
Yeah, actually, it's the only place you can watch me. I was terrible about getting on any of the other platforms. I figured out YouTube, and I was done. So yeah, YouTube, and you can just search or even Google "Escape with Jay," and it's Jay, just to be sure you get it right. And I'll pop up on there. You should be able to find me, no problem.
Great. So if you want to talk to Josh directly about kayaking or anything else in his life, go to Escape with Jay. If you want to talk to him about Blue Nest, you can always contact us here at Blue Nest Beef and get plugged into Josh. Super thanks, Josh. It's really awesome to have you in our flock and to let you let the customers get to know you just a little bit here tonight. And thanks for joining us, everybody.